if you were going to give somebody advice on what rates they should be charging.
I'll let you take that one first, because I think we're going to agree on that one.
You know, when I first got in this business, we were in the state of Florida, and it was $29.9 was our max rate, and well, by golly, that's what we're charging everybody because they won't let us charge more.
Legally, they won't let you charge more.
Of course, we couldn't do math, and rounding errors got us in trouble anyway, legally. It's interesting because people talk about having a low interest rate and saying, well, I think it's going to be a great marketing tool. And I would tell you that and in our store that we run today, we have a 10-point lower interest rate than our competitors. I'm not sure that we're shy about our markups, but our interest rate's lower. And by no means is that going to change our sales volume. But when we start getting customers in our lot, anybody who's objecting to payment or objecting to price of car, we talk about warranty, and we talk about reporting to the bureau, and oil changes and roadside assistance, and oh, by the way, our interest rate is 10 or 11 points lower than drive time in our town. It's a great closing tool. And I also tell you one thing that was a sort of an intangible that I hadn't recognized when we did that. It makes all our employees feel better about where they work.
Agree and disagree a little bit. Disagree in that I think if you've got a 29% interest rate, I think you should charge as much of that as you can get. I agree with that. I don't think I would charge all 29. I think I would be a little bit below, maybe 1% to make sure that there aren't any rounding errors, because those are going to happen. I do agree that in today's competitive environment, maybe interest rate is something we take a look at to attract or keep some of those better customers, because they can, we know for a fact, 480s are getting bought. I mean, Wells Fargo is buying them, Santander, they're getting bought out there, and the allure to that is a lower rate, longer term, and a smaller payment. I'm not saying chase that model. Don't go out there and try to be one of these guys because they have a whole bunch of money behind them. But it is something I think you need to be aware of. I still think our typical customer is how much down and how much are my payments going to be. I mean, if it wasn't, we wouldn't be selling cars. I've got dealers in Illinois, 39% interest rate, guys. 39%. I mean, you look at that payback on that thing, and for most of you, if you've had a mortgage, you remember the first mortgage you ever signed, you looked at the amount financed, and you went right over here to the total of the payments, and you threw up, didn't you? You went, my God, I'm going to pay back 5 times what I borrowed. This is crazy. I don't think our customer really too much cares about the interest rate as a whole, but I do think that's something you got to be willing to take a look at to maybe attract repeat business, maybe being one of the keys there. Hey, look, you paid 3 cars great with me. I'll tell you what, on this next one, we'll cut your interest rate because maybe I don't have the really, really nice card to sell it, but at least I can keep them in. So I agree and disagree with Chuck a little bit.
Okay. I'm going to weigh in on that just a little bit. So, because I see this all the time, my thing is that compliance problems start by people maxing things out. You know, don't max anything out. Stay well below it. Like he said, at least 1%. I think that's a good idea. But on the other front, discouragement. You know, people want to pay for things mostly. Yeah, you have these people out there that don't want to pay for things, but for the most part, I think people generally want to pay for things. At least when I was doing what you did, I remember that. They wanted to pay. They didn't always have the ability to pay, like what he's saying, but they typically wanted to. If you're just knocking their heads off, charging them 30% or whatever, they get pretty discouraged. At some point, they get really down on what they're doing. So I'm kind of a big believer these days. If your goal is to repo cars, then charge 30%. If your goal is to keep those customers in them and try to get them to pay, get them to feel good about what they're doing, keep the rates down. I mean, that's my opinion, for what it's worth.
I have one more thing to add to that one, which I have been preaching a little bit lately, and this is all based on the new world of compliance out there, is I've said I still believe you probably need to find a better way to keep your customers with you than luring them with an interest rate. Mm-hmm. So in our store, everybody gets the same rate, 5th car, 1st car, 650 beacon score, 450 beacon score, but we'll give you other things out there. But I want to make sure that when someone says, well, what about your interest rate? We're equal opportunity offenders.
And it's a great point from a compliance standpoint, risk-based pricing, and because if you do the different interest rates, you've got to give everybody that, and it's just another piece of paperwork that's got to be printed out and something that could cause a problem.
Anybody have any questions? You guys are supposed to be involved in this. Go ahead, Ray.
What kind of interest rate is that Chuck's dealerships are charging?
We're at right now, we're at 18.9. The state max is 29.9 on the cars we sell because they're more than 4 years old on average. And again, we even put it up on signs in front of billboards in front of the store, and I'm pretty positive no one has ever slammed on the brakes and wheeled it in there overnight.
You're right.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Right or wrong, we've been kind of using 20% of net pay as a barometer for affordability. Is there any light you'd like to shed on that?
Our data shows about $10 billion worth of loans, shows if you can keep it under 25% of their net, their total car payments at under 25% of their net, you've got that 7, 8 out of 10 chance of that deal succeeding. You get over that, and we see the static pool rates and the loss rates get into that 35, 40, 45%. So 20, I'm not going to say it's a steadfast rule, but that many loans have said if we can keep it at 25% or below, give them 75% disposable, that's a good area to be in.